Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to my black hole, a place where you get sucked in and never escape. Now, um, maybe that's a horrible way to describe it. But, guys, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for joining myself and everyone else on this corner of the interwebs where we talk about hard science fiction in tabletop role playing games. And today, we are again using a prompt from the Fermi Paradox. For those who are unfamiliar, the Fermi Paradox explores the paradox between the mathing of the universe and that we should see alien life, yet we do not have any current evidence thereof. So, why don't we see alien life despite the age of the universe and the the overwhelming odds that there would be other intelligent life out in the universe long before we existed ourselves, and why we don't see them. We're also going to talk about its use and world build using this strangely uh, empty Fermi paradox to fill our world, so we can talk about science fiction and maybe even talk a little bit about fantasy and such, which I've ignored quite a bit because I'm a polygamist. I love all kinds of role playing games, including fantasy, and we may include this within the fantastical as well. So, uh, this Fermi paradox, not sure exactly what name to give it, so I gave it every name I could possibly say, and that is that space is murderous, it is lethal, it is deadly, it is like a predator out to kill us. And oh yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Um, uh, by the way, we go live 6 a.m. ish each day, Monday through Friday. So please join us, depending on which part of the world you are in. If you could join us, we'd love to have you. You would be our co-host. You brilliant and intelligent and creative individuals out there. So this Fermi paradox essentially embraces the idea that space is just too damn lethal, and most, if not all, alien races that are out there, if they are out there, are too fragile for the dangers of space. And mind you, we already know that space travel is dangerous, and that as human beings, uh, there are far too many instances that will cause our death and elimination. Some of them immediate, and then we're going to talk about some that are extended lethalities that may happen to us. And I think the extended lethalities may be the thing that we're going to world build off of. So, of course, we have the immediacy of not being able to breathe in space, the vacuum. There's also the lack of pressure. There's the cold. There's also radiation. And strangely enough, there's quite a bit of heat in space as well. Not to mention the fact that the some of the extended um, horrors and dangers of getting into space are leaving our own gravity well. So we have to contend with our own reliability of our own technologies not failing us, including micrometeors and debris that from Kessler syndrome that we've put up in our own solar system. I mean, in our own planetary orbit, as well as the fact that um, micrometeors and particles are moving at extreme velocities in space anyway, and at a moment's notice you could get punctured by some of that. We also have extended things like radiation, um, radio waves, high frequency sounds, solar flares. um, uh, Maybe there's even biologics that are out in space that could kill us just by simply coming in contact with them, as well as many other things that we bring with ourselves, like our own biology and our bio gut could get out of control, starvation and lack of nutrients, as well as lack of potable water for us to drink. The oxygen that we breathe, or oxygen nitrogen mixtures, could easily go out of control, and uh, anything from radiation sickness to broken DNA to isolation syndrome in our own minds going crazy, from hallucinations and other mental afflictions and insanities that we haven't yet encountered by living in the isolation of space, as well as muscle atrophy, bone density fractures, and heck, even vertigo and biodysmorphia, where we may even dislike living in our own bodies, having so many fragile elements that prevent us from really embracing and expanding and living in space and adapting ourselves to space. Now, I say that as an armchair creator for tabletop role playing games. Not very much scientific, but I guarantee that and a whole lot more goes into exploring space, and to have a intergalactic society where each individual has to deal with those things might present itself. We may have more problems than a little bit, and of course alien species may have the exact same problems when going into space. Also, just experimentally, we as a society might find ourselves lacking the wherewithal to stomach the idea that we may have a larger percentage of deaths happen in our every time we take a further step into space than our society is willing to accept. And I think this is something that is a real concept, despite all the other dangers that a society may consider space travel having too high a cost. For example, how many failed missions involving humans would we accept while we try to step further and further away from home? Um, is it half a percent, 3%? For every 100 missions we launch and spacecraft we send and astronauts and other willing individuals, what percentage would we accept? And also, the willing participants, right? Like, will we protect those willing participants and say, no, you can't go, despite their willingness to go, even though there's a 7% chance of failure, that we have 7 failures out of every 100? Or would we go further into 25%? Is that far too high? Even a 1% failure rate is pretty horrible. I mean, we have airline travel now, and airline travel failure is extremely low. We've but we've had a lot of failures in our ability to create automobiles and ships, sailing, ocean going vessels and flying vessels, and still we pushed forward. But maybe there's something that would prevent an alien race from expanding simply because they find it's too dangerous. And society hasn't, dare I say, embraced or swallowed the idea that, there are some who are brave enough or intelligent enough or willing to place themselves. An alien race may just say, you know what, we're going to just remain homebodies. We're homesteaders. We've suffered too many losses, expended too many resources. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. So we may send out probes, but that's about it. And even those probes may have so many failure. There may be so many failures in the probe sending and such that maybe alien species just don't want to expand. We also have the issue of, and I think this would really greatly impact our world building, that we want to send humans and settle the moon and create space stations and go to Mars and other places in our own solar system. An alien species may step foot like sailors of old. They may travel far and just be unable and or unwilling to reach a hand back and pull others along. So these might be one-way trips, or at least the dangers involved in stepping forth to other planetary locations or establishing other orbital homesteads or whatever. Yes, there may be some intrepid explorers that are able to do it, but there might not be a large percentage of population or resources to reach back and pull tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions along with them to make these other places. It's possible that we as humans may send people to Mars, get 1,000 people there, and be done with it. And it's just like, no, we really don't have the resources and the propensity and the wherewithal to move forward. Much like our own, um, much like our own, we go to the moon, we use math to get to the moon, we successfully get there, and then we just stop the space programs. Why? Because as human beings, when things go tough, we tend to not want to explore outwards. We tend to become very insular and say, why are we concerning ourselves out there? We need to concern ourselves at home. And much like humanity, we will snatch resources from a thing um, far more easily than reaching out and saying that this is important for future generations. We will tend to be like, hell no. Let's concern ourselves with number one, and that's me. And so, um, reaching out of a dark, deep black hole into the void of space might not be the most important thing, which, does that mean we're going to leave behind in many ways those that have the 10,000 that have settled Mars and just go, yeah, we're done for right now because we've got um, another 3 generations of us arguing with each other because of some kind of economic downturn, and the people living there are like, we were expecting a couple of tens of thousands more to join us, but yeah, thanks for cutting us off. Um, so that may be a big thing. So similar to like the zoo hypothesis or um, the fence hypothesis, where alien species have kind of um, allowed hazardous intergalactic things to exist between all of us to make great neighbors. It may be possible that just traveling through space itself may be so lethal that that push through space may be its own issue. Like we may never become comfortable or have technologies that are good enough to make space travel um, a a dare I say, as easy as walking through the park, right? The dangers of space and radiation and isolationism and um, uh, the cold and heat and pressures and micrometeorites may always be a hazard, no matter what kind of aerogel or graphene or carbon nanotubes and life extension and genetic modification. Maybe we just never get past that. And so this may make a very good reason for having a Fermi paradox where there's other alien races that are, oh yeah, we really wish we could expand throughout our own galaxy. We just can't do it. You add to that time dilation and communication distances and things, and yeah, we've set up other colonies, but we're too concerned with trying to even keep ourselves alive. Um, After colonies are set, we also have the problem of genetic and socioeconomic singularities, or maybe not singularity is the right word because a singularity sounds like a good thing. Much like we understand that mutts, dogs, and other pets that are made with a whole like a mishmash of genetic material actually is a good thing. Um, Humans tend to want to breed animals into specificity, but we also know that that brings about problems. So, an example is when it comes to fruits and vegetables, the greatest amount of genetic material we have for uh, our big staples like corn, wheat, rice, potatoes, other fruits and other vegetables and things of that nature. It's not just eating one orange. We need dozens of types of oranges and you know thousands of types of corn and hundreds of types of rice if we were to grow them in space because of genetic modification. Once you start to become genetically go down a genetic singularity, that funneling means that we have less adaptability, and that may prove true for us as humanity as well. um, you're going to need a large enough population so that we have enough genetic material to breed with each other to as make us as genetically diverse. Otherwise we might start getting into like what is it there's an app in like Iceland or something like that that lets you know whether you may or may not be dating a relative. And there may be, this is weird to say, accidental incest, or maybe that's not so much incest, but like, you know, too much breeding amongst second cousins and aunties and nephews and such might be our own downfall. Also, just the air we breathe, the food we eat, um, all of that may, we may need a constant, it may be necessary for us to have a constant um, cycling of new materials and new chemicals and new compounds for everything that we do. Because of anything from simple boredom all the way to not being able to survive in a hospital simply by having nutrients pumped into your stomach. At a certain point, we need to have real meals, and the lack of engagement and enrichment may also be our downfall, causing us psychological harm. In other words, seeing the same walls, the same people, the same conversations, breathing the same air, having relationships with the same people with nothing new, could be our own downfall psychologically or physically. And that enrichment might be the atrophy of our own society. No new ideas, no new interruptions, and maybe it requires space habs to have like a 17% turnover rate. Like, okay, we've picked 17% of our own population of y'all that's got to go, and we need 17% new people to come in here to give us to inject us with new ideas, new fuel, new energies. Heck, just even new biogut to spread it around, because even our oxygen and our water is yeah, Drew. Yeah, all that may be just maybe crazy. Well, Drew, um, I'm glad you could make it. I see you yourself and Anon were able to climb out of my black hole. I appreciate it. You guys are filling that up, and I can't have you sitting in there too long. Um, but yeah, that may be. We don't go too long till we go down a really uh, dark path on this channel. But yeah, that may be the issue. Now, for world building, I could see this being a like a space habitats amongst humanity. If we're thinking of like hard science fiction, that the distances in our own, even in our own solar system, may be such that the arrival of new people and player characters traveling out there, that the dangers of space travel itself may be so dangerous that every time they arrive at a new hab, it's like wiping the sweat off the brow. Woo, we just made it by the skin of our teeth. And um, it it may be like the days of sail, that other explorers out there are, for good or bad, open up their with open arms to meet other people because they get very few visitors, and which also could be a little bit strange to meet these like inbred, um, incestuous styled habitats. Whether we like to think of that way or not, everyone knows this is a thing that happens, and having to deal with such a thing, because maybe the space habs are like, yeah, you got here, we don't want you to leave now, you're with us. Yeah, Hey, you astronauts, y'all got a pretty mouth. Ding 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 ding. It might be a little bit like, yeah, we not only do we not want you to leave, but it may be that we your arrival here and the other seven, I don't know, mercantile traders that came by here, we didn't see them as they start licking their lips and using their foot to push the bones behind a wall. Like, we didn't see them at all. Lick, lick, lick. Mm, mm, you know, um, excuse me. It might let's get away from some of the super deep and dark things. It may be that they really do want the people who arrive to breed with the people that are here. It's like, yeah, you arrived here. We expect you to carouse a whole lot. you know, um, Please tell us stories about your adventures. Please give us new interactions. Um, Heck, there may be lots of uh, polycules happening. Um, uh, Polyamorous relationships popping up. It's like, listen, we don't care. We don't have jealousies. It's like the 13 of you guys out of that starship is going to have to like please the other 1,687 of us left here in this hab. You need to get to work right now. We've got absorbent towelettes and soft music and incense. You need to get to work and on all of us, and don't leave the rest of us out because we're coming back for seconds, right? Um, yeah, there may be some of those. It could be something as simple as herbs and spices for meals, um, the exchange of information and games, and those kind of things. Heck, just having simple arguments or physicality might be important for the in the enrichment of the people who are here, who've exhausted themselves on all the different permutations from everyone, and now they're just bored or something. Now, meeting other alien races, it could be similar to like um, oh, from District 9. Wow, I almost forgot the movie. District 9, Alien Nation, and some of these others that we could come across an alien species from maybe they send out a signal, distress call or something, and humanity's like, yay, we get to meet aliens, and there's only like 107 of them, and the aliens are like, listen, there it's only us. All the rest of our species is left back home. It's going to take us generations just to send a signal back home, and they have no interest in leaving home. We are our only intrepid explorers, and there's not too many of us left, and we're just trying to survive on our own because the deep reaches of space, from black holes and quasars and nebula and um, binary and trinary star systems and gravity fluctuations and rogue planets and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they tell humanity like, go back home. You don't want to be out here. We've lost 98% of our generation fleet of volunteers who decide to come with us, and we numbered in the tens of thousands, and there's only like a couple hundred of us left. It's too dangerous. Yeah, Anon says, then maybe the question is, what of us survives after such experiences? Yeah. Yeah, you start getting this potpourri or jambalaya of psychological issues, physical issues, uh, dangers happening to our technology, the inability for us to advance ourselves because of how harmful surviving out in the wilderness is. And maybe intellectually we get pushed to the breaking point that we can't design our way out, we can't evolve our way out of these situations. And I think that would be kind of cool. It would seem a little bit Mad Max, dystopian, furiosa, um, um, wildness out in space, which I think would kind of come across as a pretty interesting world building thing. So let's get into some of the world building because we're almost halfway through the show. So I could imagine space being kind of Mad Maxy in the sense of it requires so many resources to step from planet to planet, solar system to solar system, hab to hab, that it feels a little bit like every man for themselves, very nomadic people, um, clawing their way to get to the next spot instead of it just being very common. Like, oh, we're just gonna go at constant acceleration. Halfway through, we do a flip and burn, and just back our way down to Mars. It might require far too many resources. Like, for example, we know today that it's going to be like in the billions to send human beings to Mars. Maybe that cost never comes down. And those costs could be anything from trying to acquire water from comets to time lag to having to send dozens, if not hundreds, of resources to get to where we need to go first, unmanned, just to get a dozen people to get there and the resources they need. And an alien species is like, they're like, oh, there's alien spacecraft, but they're all like automated. Before the aliens get here, and the aliens are like, listen, we need to bring our food, our water. We need to bring some entertainment with us. We also needed to bring like embryos. We needed to bring, you know, a damn near five other starships that are nothing but empty parts to repair all the damage that happens to our own starships because we burn through our own engines. Just halfway through, we flip them a bird. I I knew I was thinking of flip and burn. Yeah, halfway through, they're like, "F you, you mothers." Yeah. Oh, there was Ascension. I think it was like 6 episodes in Canada, but 3 episodes here in the States when it aired. Ascension was a space travel, and the generation ship was on its um, heading towards its 51st year in space, and it was the halfway point, and so they were having a festival of sorts. A little depressing though, because some of them were wondering like, are we won't live the next 50 years to arrive at the destination, and what happens then. And of course there was a murder, and there was other political things happening and such around the starship, and it could be an alien race that like by the time they get to Earth's solar system, the aliens have like murder killed each other and broken down into factions. And by the time we're like, hey, we come in peace, and the aliens are just like, we're busy murder killing each other, could you hold off for a minute? Just trying to survive. Or maybe they just arrive drooling with each other, like, blah, 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 like, you know what, we've been driven insane by isolation. Can we just get one of those human hamburgers you guys talk about? Because we would sure love to have some of that. Um, but also with the using like the Mad Max dystopian thing, maybe there's far more space debris, empty habs, um, mutants, and those kinds of individuals and locations scattered through our own solar system and beyond, more than a little bit. Maybe finding a true place that's utopic is very rare, and the habs that have been able to find a good equilibrium want to protect that at all costs. So, they could be very xenophobic because, they've reached their homeostasis period, and they're like, look, you listen, we live on Mars, you just land on Phobos or Deimos, we'll do an exchange thing, but you are not landing on our planet at all. We will shoot you down because we're already stabilized and you are an X factor, and we don't want to disrupt that stabilization. We're here to exchange biological material and embryos, and we'll do our own version of panspermia and games and other interactions. But you know what? You stay out, because we can't, like, much like a hydroponics farm, or people who have the, oh, what are they called? You can create your own dome, planetarium or something like that. I forget what it's called, but anyway, you can make an insular dome and put in biological materials and plants and things and even insects to have it all exist in its own ecosystem. And that ecology may be extremely important, or far more important than we think it is, to travel in the deep reaches of space. Also, you know, we can get gun shy. We can get fearful because of so many failures, and the monuments of the failures, the dedications to those that have died to get to where people need to be. There may be these fury roads of sorts, these pathways to get to other places in our own solar system and beyond, that are littered with the death and debris of those that have tried to get to where they are. And there may be a little bit of like a society of like oligarchs, where the survivors are put on a pedestal, and people are like sycophantic about the successes of those that have survived, and they might become, very narcissistic and fanatical and inbred because of their survival. That, look, I survived a thing that many people died from, so you need to respect me. You better put some spect on my name. you know, that may be an issue as well. Also, an intergalactic alien species. Um, they may not be too far away from humans, but it could be that maybe they're not as organized as we think they are. Maybe they are literally surviving by the skin of their teeth. Now, it would be pretty funny for them to put up a false front when they meet humanity, but it's really just a whole bunch of other alien species that are just barely surviving. And, it could be, we've seen this plot before where aliens invade Earth to steal resources from Earth, but while it may not be as industrial, it could be that they want to get here. They need proteins, they need our water, they need our gravity to survive here. They may need very many things. Or, like I said, maybe they need to get breeding materials from something other than humans, just to be able to survive. And they might not ask us to receive those things. They might. I always wondered why. I understand that Earth is the place where aliens might discover a society, but I always wondered why they wouldn't settle on other planetary surfaces in our solar system before they even got here. Like, they could settle on Mars or the moons around Saturn or wherever, or orbit Jupiter, and then like sit there for a couple hundred years to prepare themselves for whatever interactions they have with humanity. Like, why wouldn't an alien generation ship just park itself on the other side of our moon and just sit there? And we could be panicked and everything, and the aliens are like, look, let them calm down. And even their own society might be like, yeah, but we need oxygen, and we need their carbon dioxide or whatever, things like that. And they're like, well, we could visit their Venus first. They call it Venus. Let's just suck up the upper atmosphere, filter out that sulfur dioxide or whatever it is, or the methane or ethane that's on, in these other gas giants, before we, move on and ignore the humans, or whatever the case may be. So anyway, this is one version of the Fermi paradox. Is just basically that space, it just wants to kill you. Space is just out there to murder kill you. And I think this can set up some pretty good drama, because while there may be lots of like social navigation and interactions and parlaying, the dangers of space may also make very strange bedfellows. So there may be a society of like, okay, given a different time and place, we might try to murder kill each other, but right now we are desperate to have to work together, because if we murder kill each other inside of this hab or starship or whatever, that there's a good chance that we're just all dead, and we need all hands on deck to ensure that we put up plenty of repairs. Like, maybe we just don't understand how many failures in our own technology will happen despite our ability to constantly fix, repair, improve, um, um, expand, keep building to some of these habs. Maybe it's just a constant like, oh, I was going to Wow, I was going to go there. Um, the young boy that keeps sticking his finger in the I won't say the word, in the dam that keeps sprouting water, and he keeps trying to stick his fingers in to keep it from spouting a leak. Um, you know, uh, maybe that's the case. Drew says more important. Yeah, why do the aliens always go to the USA? In that regard, District 9 was a refreshing diversion from that trope. You got that right. I've always sometimes those things bother me too. Now I get it. So a large part of that is marketing and cost. You know, it's far easier. Hey, listen, it's easier to walk outside your house and start filming a movie in your backyard than it is to like to than it is for me as a human being to be like, I need as many people that speak Yugoslavian and recruit them for my movie. That, you know, that's why that happens. But you're absolutely correct. Like, why would aliens presume even to contact the largest communities there are? Maybe taking very small baby steps because of the dangers. Maybe they go to the smallest, most primitive communities on our earth, to find out what we're like before expanding. Who's to say they're even going to land on land? Aliens could very easily land in our oceans, especially if our oceans contain valuable resources like, oh, I don't know, there's oxygen and there's H2O in our oceans. So and they could use that to harness it for fuel or whatever. Who's to say that the aliens aren't aquatic in nature, or to defend themselves they go, wow, there's a whole lot of empty space they don't use on their planet. And the one alien captain is like, well, or scientist is like, well, they call it an ocean and it's filled with water. And I'm like, yeah, I know what it is, but why aren't they building down there? Look, let's put our armada under the ocean, and that way we don't have to worry about them trying to like strike at us or something. They've got submarines, no big deal. We could just blast them with our blue green lasers, no big deal, right? So yeah, you're right there, Drew. Like, why do they always land in the United States? And now it does make sense for them to want to talk to the greatest leaders and things of that nature, but maybe they just want to be surreptitious. Like maybe they just want to steal. They want to do a Noah's Ark thing, like acquire as many different biologically diverse things on Earth as possible without us bothering them as to why they're doing it. And they're like, zebras, cool, let's get some of that. Insects, oh wow, they've got a billion type of insects. Let's get ourselves a couple of dozen of each of those. And oh, what is that? Fungus and algae? Let's scrape some of that together. Oh wow, they have nothing but diseases. Well, we love studying diseases. Let's get a lot of those viruses and bacteria. Or hey, did you know the humans have like bacterial gut inside of them? Great, let's cut a couple of them open and steal some of that as well. I mean, we don't know what resources they may need, and it what would be really strange is that I wonder how cannibalistic we would be. And I don't mean that in the literal, well, I kind of mean it in the literal sense, but aliens may have discovered a way for us to avoid many of the hazards of space travel. I wonder how valuable that would be for humanity if we were to discover, like, um, hey, we met aliens and they grow these weird spores on their skin. And if we just consume those spores, it keeps us from being driven insane and also helps our lungs out for breathing the dirty oxygen in our starships. Oh, by the way, it gives us life extension and we don't need to eat and drink that much water. Oh, it also heals us and hyper actuates our white blood cell and platelet manufacturing and blah blah blah, right? And it's like we're looking at the aliens and like licking our lips like, yeah, it's really good we met you, but we sure do like rubbing your skin. Yeah. Yeah, that feels nice. And the aliens are like, why are you being touchy feely with us? Like, you sure do smell good. Yeah, hey aliens, y'all got some pretty mouths. right? I mean, now what would be really cool or cooler would be for the technologies that are available, and maybe the aliens themselves stole that. Yeah, Anon says plot twist. Before they left, they looked exactly like us. Yeah, I mean, we we've that's been an explanation for human like alien races in many science fiction stories, that um, a combination, and honestly, it may be that through panspermia, if that's how human beings came to live on Earth, that the origins of one type of genetic material got scattered throughout galaxies, untold, and that they all seem to generally look and appear the way we do. And again, the aliens we meet might be us. We also really don't know, and I know this is a little bit far fetched, I get it, but we really don't know how, when humans breed in space, how will that affect our children? Will they adapt to zero gravity? Will they adapt to the heavy radiation? Um, how many deaths will we accept before the lives that exist? There may be some what we consider to be genetic deformities that might benefit us in space. We don't know. We don't know if there are mental afflictions that we have here on Earth that hold us back, or those people need to be sectioned off. That in space kind of benefits you. I mean, I can imagine I think there's some um, dare I say, a psychological diagnoses of different people that in space we might need. Like, it might be mandatory we need them on our starships. It may be mandatory that we need those individuals. So it's possible that we become more and more alien as we begin breeding with more and more people who are surviving um, the deep reaches of space, as our DNA starts to get mutated from the background radiations that we just simply cannot get rid of. And it's the proverbial societal shrug the shoulders, like, oh well, I, I guess we're just going to keep growing extra limbs, or our skin's going to turn different colors, or our pupils become dilated and fixated on something, or a we begin growing new organs in our body to deal with the zero gravity, and our stomachs digest foods differently because of gravity not keeping the food down, or something like that. And over time, you know, yeah, webbed fingers to swim through the air in our zero gravity starships. Maybe our limbs start growing like monkeys, apes, bonobos, and such, that our arms, we grow. I don't know what we would call them, but when maybe we start growing fans or feet, heats, feet, hands where our feet should be, and that may come about as our toes start to spread, because we no longer are wearing shoes any longer, because we're grabbing on things with our toes. And then maybe flexibility in our hips and knees, and those people that are extremely flexible and double jointed becomes a normal thing. And maybe even our heads begin allowing us to not just get our chin to our shoulder, but have more of a 270-degree arc, or a near 360-degree turn, because we're living in zero G, and so many other things as well, right? Um, and even societally, we may have to start discovering different things. Even bringing up something in the Expanse that happened, so I don't get blamed for bringing up dirty stuff. In the television show The Expanse, one of our favorite characters, Rimmer, um, is with her star crew. They are basically a giant polyamorous group of people living together on starships. That might just become the norm in space as people are recruited, and it is almost expected of you to, if you don't bond with the crew in a certain way, that you can only stay on the starship for 47 days, and in that 47 days you haven't bonded with at least 12% of the crew. Yeah, you got to go, because we already, long before we start even having problems, we're just going to drop you off at the nearest hab, and you're just going to have to figure your way through this, because in order for us to survive together, we have to be united. Like, we almost literally have to, like strangely enough to say, we have to have reasons to fall in love with each other, or however you would measure that, um to even have you on our crew, because otherwise you're going to be a problem for us, and we can't have that. You know, um, it, I mean, I don't know. It sounds to me like I could see this being a very interesting type of environment, almost like exploring dungeons in a fantasy realm, but the dungeon's membrane is surrounded by a skin that you don't want to pierce, because if you do, everyone's dead. So it's like walking on eggshells, but you want to murder kill your enemy, but you and your enemy are looking at each other, and you realize we can't pull guns on each other because we're probably all dead. Plus, we're running out of oxygen. We got to clean the filters. The radiation poisoning is sweeping through. We've got to make sure that the rest of the population here gets their genetic washing. Yeah, Drew says, well, that is certainly one kind of love boat. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there may be, it's like, if you don't love us, you're going to have to leave, and you're just like, I just got here. Like, yeah, well, no, we know. Um, yeah, you and all your crew, you're going to have to pull your pants down. We're going to have to take some samples here, because yeah. um, but that may not even be the case. Now I could see the intricacies and the downfall of groups living together and working in such unison, that the dozens, hundreds, thousands of people that know each other intimately, and I don't mean in the physical way so much as knowing what each other person needs to account for themselves, whether it's, this person needs to be left alone for at least a minimum of 3 hours a day. Otherwise, you're going to get the worst out of them. Or this other person loves reading old Earth books. So whenever we travel, someone who is able to reclimate an old Earth book of any type, they bring it back with them, because they know 5 members of their crew love reading books. And heck, they may not even have too many conversations with them, but if they get a book, this person is like their ally for life. And uh, who knows? There might even be a crew of people that's numbers in the thousands, and they barely speak to each other. They just know, like, they've talked to each other so much, they really don't even have much more to say to each other. But they know, hey, every Wednesday they love veal parmesan, and we're going to, extruded out of the soy crafting machine, their veal parmesan, because that's exactly what they like. And someone fixes it exactly 9:05 p.m. on the internal clock in the ship, places it at table number 3, seat number 2, and that person comes floating through the wall, sits down, and sees their veal parmesan sitting there right for them, because everybody knows this is what this person has exactly every Wednesday, right? And and the PCs might come into that, and it might be this unspoken gear of social interactions that just everybody just knows, and just that's just what they do. And the players may need to navigate this, and like, they're trying to talk to each other, to the people there, and they just look at them strangely, like, are you using words out of your mouth? That's weird. I don't know you. Yeah, we're new. We just arrived. Oh, well, you're going to have to fit in and figure it out. Um, but yeah, that intimacy, especially if we go back to the, hey, it's been 12 years. We need to excise 17% of our crew to get in new material, it might be pretty traumatic to say goodbye to 17% of the people that live here who are who know each other intimately in their behaviors, their sleep patterns, their eating patterns, their entertainment patterns, and things of that nature. And just it might be traumatic for them to exchange with other people. Now, this could be a standard where the player characters are members of like um, a trading crew, but they not smugglers. They may take needed resources from one place to another through the dangers of space, including people, to ensure the survival of various habitats. Because there's this constant, um, it's one step forward, two steps back. So players might be there to fix the skin of a habitat because of the constant micrometeorites, and then instantly go from there to take 17% of their crew to another hab where they have an exchange process of families and friends who move on, and then they go from one place and they're like, listen, we need our air scrubbers exchanged because our air scrubbers are overtaxed and worked. And they could very well be rogue traders that are out there trying to keep society alive in our own solar system, but they're barely hanging on. And only the biggest, boldest, toughest individuals out there can survive in our own solar system because of the constant threat of yet another thing happening. Okay, if it's not micrometeorites, it's solar flares. If it's not solar flares, it's a disease that spreads very quickly. For those who don't know, cruise ships, small islands, um, they can't afford to have an outbreak of any type, and because a small island could be besieged by the common cold, some kind of fever or dysentery or some whatever. What's very common? Hepatitis, norovirus. Um, I'm not going to talk about the 19, but there's plenty of diseases that can very easily spread very rapidly in tight environments, and that could be a thing that the players there are out to stop. Or heck, they might the player again, the players may not be able to leave, or the habitat may not want them to leave because they are simply entertaining their new life, their new blood. They need people here who can rejuvenate uh, the hab. And maybe there's a whole lot of like habitats on their downfall. Hey, we used to have 5,000 rooms in this habitat that's located on the surface of Callisto. I don't even know if you could build a surface habitat of Callisto, but go with it. And because I think Callisto is very volcanic, but doesn't matter. So they built it on one or more of these airless moons, and the hab might be shutting down. And the PCs get there and they're like, "Look, we're down to 10% of the original people that were here. We've only got a couple hundred of us left. Yeah, we need to abandon the hab and find another place to live." And the PCs are like, "I don't know where to take you." And they're like, "Well, we have valuable resources. We'll exchange it if you can just take us to another place that will accept us." And that in it of itself maybe require lots of parlaying and diplomatic exchanging and things like that, because space habs are like, look, we can barely take in a dozen of you guys, let 100, because that's really going to upset the homeostasis of our space hab. And how do the players deal with that? Do they evacuate those people into space, or dump innocent people into the recycle bin and extrude them out and use them in the hydroponics lab as feeder material, or do they have a soul and a heart and want to keep these people alive, even if it's temporary, as they take their starship and travel someplace, somewhere to for valuable resources? I wonder what a space Mad Max society would look like. I'm sure Warhammer 40K has some imagery, but it would be pretty interesting for people to scavenge from a lot of starships and things like that being held together with thread and gum and a prayer, and with starships that just look like they're just jury rigged, or is it jerry rigged? You tell me if it's jury rigged or jerry rigged. But anyway, stapled together just to limp their way from one place to another. I think it would be pretty cool to see that in a Mad Max type of world. Now, in a more if we were to see this in a more robust society, I think it would just be the society just puts up with the fact that there's far more death and destruction than a little bit, and maybe there's a lot of like automation involved and probes and um, advanced scouting that happens because it's like, okay, we know we're going to take a 17% loss. I don't know why I'm stuck with the 17%, but follow me on this. They know they're going to get a 17% loss. Everybody knows it. But in order to establish another foothold going further into space, they're like, look, this is just a thing that's just part of our society. And, we have 4 factories that are automated. They're going to work now. We already know that one of those factories is probably not producing what we want. But when we arrive, crew, we need to be tough, and maybe life is just cheap. If our solar system has mid digits billions, right? 50, 60, 70 billion people living on Earth. Maybe we have a moon that has um maybe Earth is hitting trillions, and the moon has billions on it, or so, like maybe our population is growing so much that um, we have a greater propensity to overbreed because we know how much is our society is losing, which might make up for the losses. Even if the breeding is done artificially, like for example, maybe every explorer has in their back pocket like a tube of frozen embryos that they just always carry with them. And that might just be I got a gun on one side and frozen embryos on the other side, and when we get there, we're going to crack them open and get them started and get them growing. And what a strange lone wolf and cub type of society, that where you have these very hardened explorer warriors carrying backpacks full of like growing children and keeping them alive because they know they're going to have to hurry up, get them accelerated growth, because there's no telling when the current explorers are going to just end up being murder killed by space. And they're like, listen, we need the next generation quick. We need them skilled. We need them grown. We got to hurry up and train them, because if we don't, the rest of us are dead. and we'll never make a foothold getting into space. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for allowing me to express myself and talk about this Fermi paradox and be inspired. And lastly, Drew, if you're still here, I have changed the conundrum word in the game, and I'm just going to call them problems and solutions. So thank you again for challenging me. Yeah, I'm going through the document and erasing things and things like that, making it nice and simple. Problems and solutions. Maybe that's a little bit better and more natural language. So anyway, thank you guys very much for spending your time here. Your time is very valuable. I hope I can make change for in your day and your time and your tabletop role-playing experiences. Also, if you've been here this long and you're brand new, especially if you're brand new, please like, share, subscribe, and let other people join in the fun, as well as the fact that coming up with new and interesting subject matter. Uh, Anon says, "Hey, that's what I call them." Well, that's what happens when you have parallel development, problems and solutions. Yeah, aren't we all surrounded by that? But yeah, whatever. Oh, by the way, I know I haven't been telling you this, and I wish I should. and maybe a little bit more. Um, there is still development going along with Cool Name Goes Here. Uh, cool Name. Um, the Cool Name. What the hell? Let's close that off. What the hell is that? Cool Name Goes Here is a Kickstarter. It is still going on. It was a successful Kickstarter, and we are still developing it. And when I say we, myself and the other developers in it, and I'm very proud of the work that I've done for this. And you can go to it. It's based. I'll put the link here in the very end of the chat. Let's see. Copy this and paste it over here into the chat. Boop, 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 boop. And there's, of course, a Discord part of this. If you go to Mechanical Muse or look up Autaltis, you will see that Mark Tassin does many updates on this. The rule system is it's coming into its 1.0 design mechanism as well. And so yeah, you check it out if you want to. Oh, there's my face up there, and there are these are too many other brilliant people alongside myself. I'm very proud to have my name along with them. But yeah, we're consulting designers, and I would love to even talk about this as well. So yeah. So guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Also, again, thank you very much for just okay. Owen, Casey Stevens here. Yep. Toya Christian, Matt Forbeck, and here I am, DBJ. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. But anyway, guys, have a great one. I will see thee later. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. Bye.